happen to you on a day in, day out basis and it reminds you of your childhood? Well, that happened to me today, and I know that it happened to a lot of you today, at least if you're growing up in the 99 to the 2000s. Well, specifically in this time, the 2006 era, when you had college baseball in a video game, and I know our older crowd will be like, oh, there goes Blake talking about them damn video games again. But MLB The Show announcing today that you'll be able to go to college and play with LSU, and you'll be able to go to Omaha with the team and lead LSU to a national title in college baseball. For number one, inject that into my veins. Hell yes. Now, I want them to make a whole game with it, and I could take LSU to 20 straight Omaha appearances and to 20 straight national titles, because I will do that in college baseball. I play more baseball video game-wise than anything else, really. But I do got to say this. I do have to say this. I love that I have a young son, and that things that happened when I was a kid gets rejuvenized, gets brought back into the landscape of what is life. I will play any video game where it's got LSU involved, and you know who your boy's going to be. In case you missed it, MLB The Show 25, which, by the way, Paul Skeens is on the cover of, I might add, is bringing back the college version in some semblance. The last time that this happened, well, you know what happened the last time this happened, and hopefully we'll get us a college baseball game in the future, because I will tell you this, there's no more pinnacle of baseball today than LSU baseball. It is the face of college baseball as we know it, which is really ironic because less than a week ago, I went on with our good buddy Chris Phillips over at SEC Unfiltered, and boy, a lot of LSU fans were talking trash about me calling out Texas, and then Texas, who's not going to be in the video game, gets really upset, and then now you're interjecting into it, and it's kind of like me standing over here saying to myself, hey, wait a minute. I remember this now. I remember something like this happening. I guess it only fits a narrative when it fits your narrative, but if Blake says it, I guess it's just a problem. But you do listen, and I promise you, as someone who does this for a living, we're going to be more right than we are wrong about the current situation of how they go for LSU. Speaking of that, got a lot of moves that we got to talk about. LSU makes some staff moves. Morgan Phillips is going to be coming back to a senior role in the recruiting department, but J.R. Belton is moving to the director of football ops. We'll talk about that. Donovan Tate is going to be the next assistant director of player personnel. We'll go a little bit into the football version because, the over-unders are out for win totals for LSU, that being 8.5. We'll spend a lot on that. I saw a lot of local people today talking about it and saying that they believe that the floor is 9 wins for LSU, and I'm like, yeah. What answers do you have other than you saying that Garrett Nussmeier is returning? I don't know if that's your floor. Your floor being 9 wins. That means, quite frankly, everything would have to go wrong for you not to make the playoff. Not sure that you can go there yet, considering you have not won a game in week 1 the last 5 seasons. So we'll touch on that. We'll get to 5 key points there. We'll talk a little bit of baseball. Oh, and by the way, I got to lead this off yet again with something that I don't want to. The Greg Brooks story on Good Morning America came out yesterday, and it has been a microcosm of other fan bases joining and banging on Brian Kelly. And see, this is I feel like I'm in deja vu a little bit. After the USA Today went after LSU and coaches and went after and did all the things that they did. Basically, by the way, USA Today is no more because they were a shitty newspaper. But I feel like I'm in deja vu because fan bases only get – other fan bases around the country only get one side of the story. Only one side of the story gets put out here, and people just run to the fact that Brian Kelly is what I've been seeing all day on my Twitter feed, and I had to get off of it. Well, Brian Kelly's just an asshole. Well, maybe he is, maybe he's not. But see, the problem about that is that what Good Morning America doesn't show you, what nobody else wants to show you, what nobody wants to dig in and find out on, and what nobody wants to talk about, well, LSU got sued behind it, and the man got sued behind it. He's not going to talk to him. This is what we talked about last night. None of this that's going to go on with Greg Brooks from here on out is going to be what's best for Greg Brooks. It's not going to. The number one focus for LSU, the number one focus for Greg Brooks should be, what do we have to do to make Greg Brooks get better? Nobody seems to want to do that. That other than Greg Brooks, nobody seems to want to do that on every side. You know, I feel like as I get older here, my kids get older, I get a little bit more gray hairs, and I'm sure you do as well. I feel as if that we get into a situation where when is enough enough? And I feel like this life can never teach me anything new. I'm not surprised by any of this anymore. And I'm sure a lot of you, with the wisdom that you're garnering and gaining as you get older, you're not surprised about this at all either. But it wasn't missed upon me today that Brian Kelly, yet again in the news for something that's not great, not his fault really on this one. He's not a medical doctor. Well, you didn't call the kid. Well, you sued me. What did you think was going to happen? If anybody thinks for any 1 second, if you put yourself in that man's shoes, the biggest complaint on Good Morning America was that Brian Kelly, since he got sued on October the 4th, was that you have not talked to him. Blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. I can't get away from it. Even if I wanted to. I guess the algorithm on Twitter just keeps me from seeing this stupid shit. I want what's best for Greg Brooks, man. It's all that matters. So any legalese or any legal issues or problems or anything that comes of it is not going to be what needs to happen. From this point forward, it's not. It won't. And whenever LSU gets sued, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to defend their stance of what they've done. How does this benefit anybody? So, you go from one place to another. You know, MLB The Show comes out, and then all the rest of the day, I'm thinking to myself, man, this is going to be so cool. You get to get the game. I get to give it to Ben, and Ben gets to play baseball with an LSU jersey on, gets to experience through that going into Omaha. You know, I will say this all the time, too, that I think the NCAA football game made college football as big as what it was. The Madden game made it as big as what it was. I mean, the NFL and college football has always been big. It hasn't been this big. Billions upon billions of dollars spent and made every year. But then the rest of the day is put on with this shit. It is absolutely insane. Positively 100% absolutely insane. Nevertheless, we got a lot to get to here tonight. Let's get to a couple comments before we do get rolling. Lance says, what's up, Big Blake? Tell me something good, brother. Getting closer to LSU baseball is all I know. Bama is burning, says WS Plea Blake. What's going on? Christopher Westbrook says, let's go. Good to have you in here. Alex Atkins says Spectrum Wellcare will make a difference in the run game. I agree with you, Spectrum. I really do, man. I think that you just need it, man. I mean, I think it's Spectrum to your point here. It could be one of the bigger hires. You know, like there's a lot of thin ice right now from the fan base to Joe Sloan, and rightfully so. It's not all on him. I think a lot of things were missed. A lot of things were missed. But you got to get better in the running game, man. And I know that it feels repetitive. We'll talk about that at very minimum tonight when we talk about the over over-under win totals for LSU from FanDuel coming out at 8.5. But there also comes a point where you got to – guys, you can't be a consistent – your floor is not 9 wins if you can't run the football. And then when you tell me, well, we got this, and this going on, you're bringing in a brand new offensive line damn near. You don't know how the connection's going to be with the receivers. What are you going to do at tight end? By the way, does the running game actually work? Because you haven't had a 1,000-yard back. You haven't been consistent in the running game outside of Jaden Daniels, and that's what you're saying the floor is. So we will get to that a little bit tonight. Brandon Reese says, which SEC baseball stadiums have you been to and still want to visit the first time? Let's see. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I haven't been to A&M, I don't think. No, I haven't been to A&M. We went to Tennessee, been to Georgia. Never been to Alabama, I don't think. Haven't been to Florida. I want to go to all of them, Brandon, if I'm being honest. But definitely the ones in the Mississippi schools. And then I've actually been to the ones I know this isn't SEC, but the ones on the Gulf Coast. I will tell you, we went to I took Ben to a Braves game this year, and you want to talk about a stadium experience? There's not a bigger stadium experience better than going to a Braves game, but I want to get to all of them. Alexander Taylor says, I hope Trey Holly can get his stuff resolved. I think that'll help too. Look, man, this is getting, I mean, it's typical. I mean, you're past a year of this incident happening. I mean, I hope that you're right. I'm with you. I hope it gets resolved. And here's what I don't like about the Trey Holly case from things that I've heard and things that I know, but my opinion wrapped around it based off of things that I have heard. This is how I feel about the Trey Holly case. They're twisting his arm for political purposes in northern Louisiana. They're twisting his arm because I think that the prosecution feels as if the young man did not commit this crime. That's why some of those charges were dropped, and I feel like that they're trying to do something to him to get to other family members is what I ultimately believe. It's what I ultimately believe. I think it is unfortunate that nobody in his – if he did not do this, that people in his family, like, hey, man, this whole world of, like, don't snitch and you know, I don't agree with it. My future is my future. I did not do something that you did. You can think about that all you want. And listen, if it was my family, it may be I might put myself in a different light, in a different aspect. I can only imagine, you know, like I'm very close to my brother. God, knock on wood, God forbid something ever happened. I mean, there's no telling what you would do. But this whole thing needs to get resolved, and it needs to get resolved now. The other issue in that is that somebody almost lost their life and somebody got drastically hurt. So, but I do think that they are twisting his arm in a lot of these. Bama's Burning says, can't wait for spring practice. What do you expect to see and or what do you want to see on the first few days of practice? So, Bama, I'm not ignoring your question. Let's do this for that one. We're going to come out of the break and we're going to talk about the staff changes and promotions. Then we're going to get to the over under win totals, and I will get to that there. I'll get to that there, because we'll talk about spring and what we want to see. And guys, basically a month, right? Like Friday, Friday, or I don't know when the 8th is. I think today's the 4th, but I mean Saturday. I don't know, but it definitely we're going to talk about that. Ducked off JB Blake. Appreciate the birthday wishes, brother. I think this is our good friend JB on Twitter. Good to have you in here, JB. No doubt, man. Happy birthday to you. But man, cherish every one of them. You know, we had a conversation today. Our good buddy Carter Bryant stopped by the house, and we were talking about that today, man. I mean, I'm going to be 35 this year. You get to, have you lived half your life? Then that's a crazy and scary thought. And look, man, cherish these birthdays. Cherish your moments with your kids. Cherish everything, man. Cherish friendships. Especially be around your kids, man. Be around your children. Because before you know it, that you will be gone. Last one before we get rolling here. Excuse me. David Woodard on YouTube says, if I'm getting pinned for something pinned down for something that I did not do, I know who did. They going down. I'm not taking the time for anyone else. Look, I don't understand that world. Like, listen, man, if it were me in the situation that I'm currently in, and it's not the situation that Trey Holly is in, I would just say this, man. I have 2 children. I have a wife. I mean, all of you coming in here and supporting us, man, that supports us throughout the year, right? Like every time y'all do something for me, look, man, it supports us in doing this. And I drastically and I massively appreciate y'all allowing me to do this. But man, there's, like people get guided in the wrong direction, whether it be the Greg Brooks thing that we talked about earlier, whether it be this situation. I mean, listen, like what needs to happen? What needs to happen? And I'm sorry, in the Trey Holly case, that somebody else got hurt. I really am. But I also have been heard, I've also been told that a lot of this has been a little bit politicized. So we'll see. Adrian Bailey, I see your comment. I do not have a status on Colin Hurley. Thank you for asking. I will try to get an update there. All right, let's get moving here. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. I forgot to say this last night, but everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to all those groups if you are on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate, review, and subscribe. Before we get rolling, let's talk about our good friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Guys, you need to use that promo code with the Super Bowl being here on Sunday. Do you want to take the 115 over-under for Saquon Barkley in rushing yards during the Super Bowl? Go to Underdog Fantasy today. You can use that promo code AYS to get a free pick and a chance to win up to $1,000. That's AYS promo code at Underdog Fantasy, where the chances are endless. Let's get to a quick break. When we come back, we got lots of LSU stuff to discuss. We'll do that next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating.
J&J has protected Louisiana homes and businesses for over 60 years.
Call him today, make the pests go away. J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
All right. Let's get moving here. So to start off, we got some LSU football stuff. Excuse me. I was kind of like burping there in the middle of it. Not a good move. But we got some LSU football stuff that we got to get to here. And let's start off with the staff. So J.R. Belton, who's been on the LSU staff for quite some time, was the director of recruiting, was a part of multiple top 10 recruiting classes at LSU, a Northern Louisiana guy, the 318, 3-1 great, which I know a lot of you are in here watching from the 318 tonight. We welcome you with us here. But now J.R. Belton, who's been a mainstay in recruiting, a massive implementation in recruiting, and a lot of things that he's done. Quite frankly, when you see a lot of these big recruits that hit campus, when you see their photos, when you see everything that they're doing, J.R. Belton is more than likely going to be around and be a big part of that. But he is now going to be alongside Austin Thomas and getting a new role as the director of football ops, as Matt Zenitz reports. I will tell you this. I look, there have been a lot of people and sources that have been talking that JR was going to move into this direction. The one thing that I continue to say, but I continue to hear too, on a daily, weekly basis, is I know that we can look at these promotions from within with like J.R. Belton and others and Donovan Tate, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But we'll look at this and say that there is some promotions from within, some other people moving on, so you letting go of a couple of people. I don't think that that's the case. It's not the vibe that I get. I know that there are logistics and logic behind what they're doing with analysts and things like that. It's a different feel of how they're trying to accomplish things. J.R. Belton was the director of recruiting. Now being the director of football ops, you're legitimately going to be in meetings with Brian Kelly, Austin Thomas, directing how things go. So when there's a meeting and LSU is doing what they need to do behind the scenes, regardless of the incident, Austin Thomas, J.R. Belton, Brian Kelly, Frank Wilson, that's your lineup. And JR, for what it's worth, has earned that role, in my humble opinion, whether it be old staff or new, in my humble opinion, has earned this role and has shown, if given the right resources, the damage that he can do. Guys, the lifeblood that let me restart that. The lifeblood that fuels the dreams of champions starts in recruiting. Moving J.R. Belton from director of recruiting and put him in the football ops where it seems like it's just a title change, it's not. You're literally having somebody that's going to be a part of the inner circle of how things will be run and the direction of what we want, how you want to do things, where you want to take things, and how your vision is implemented. Now, you could say that was with the director of recruiting, but it's a much different role in the sense of you're going to be having your hands on everything. And it's good. I think JR is a fantastic leader. I think he's shown at LSU that he can and will be a fantastic leader for LSU. The thing that I would mention here too is that I think that there has been guys inside of that building, whether it be with it being LSU, with deep Louisiana ties, that quite frankly that you have seen or either heard players talk about it or seen behind the scenes, directly or indirectly, of the impact that they have had for Brian Kelly. I think of J.R. Belton. I think of Sherman Wilson. I think of all of these other little Bobby. I think of all of these little moves that you think that you're making, and they fall on a small national news cycle, but it's not. These guys have come in and been definitely a big boost to what you do. Now, there have been misses and there have been incidents. Nothing that those guys that they have had and they've constantly promoted and moved from within that they have not had a vision for. I love this move. I think JR is going to be great at it. I think he's already shown that he can be great at it. And listen, it's one thing to get a kid committed. It's another thing to hold on to him. JR's been a big deal and a big hand in a lot of these big recruitments. I think the ones that you missed, you can remember all of them and think of most of them and what really just went down at the end. What really went down at the end, finances. Now, I feel and you feel and I guess our friends over by Traditions feel the massive difference of how LSU is doing and perceiving themselves when they go outside and recruiting. We talked to John Eads about that last night. I actually brought it up to Carter again a little bit today. Like, the perception is there. So having that role in the direction that you want to go, having Austin Thomas and JR going to Brian Kelly and going to Austin Thomas and saying, hey, I think we're having some struggles here and here. And it's definitely a big thing during the season when coaches are trying to get ready for games, that you have a guy with recruiting background and you have a guy that can be over the director of football ops, right? Like, so if Blake Baker is getting ready for Alabama week and you got a lot of things going on during that week, that is the role that J.R. Belton will play here. It's the biggest role that you can have, arguably the biggest role that you can have. Love the move for JR. He's a guy that bleeds purple and gold, loves being here. I'm happy for him. Donovan Tate is going to be the person who takes over for J.R. Belton's role for the director of recruiting, was the assistant director of player personnel. Another guy with deep Louisiana ties here. I mean, guys, it's going to continue. It's how they're building things, and good on them for doing. The thing about the director of recruiting in today's world, okay, and I'm not saying that this was, J.R. Belton's fault or anything. I think the director of recruiting from a scouting standpoint and bringing kids in and doing what you need to do is a big deal. Guys, it's not how you lock down people. It's not how you lock down having a top 5 class, having a top 3 class. Georgia, as an example today, you saw what they did, tax exemptions, state tax exemptions for NIL. Bill needs to get passed for LSU in Louisiana. Guys, it's going to continue. As much as we talk about it, and as some of you hate it, it's going to continue. Scout, develop, do what you got to do. Finances are a whole different conversation. Two things can be true at once about what you're doing in recruiting from a personal level, and then when it gets to a finance level. It's going to be really interesting this go around in high school recruiting to see how LSU responds and reacts. The reason it is mainly due to the fact of, listen, the Bryce Underwood thing, it is what it is. The Jakeem Stewart thing, it is what it is. Now, I feel like LSU clearly wanted to go in a different direction because they felt that they had bigger needs and that they had to go out in the portal and do what they did. Well, they did that. Now, when it comes to finances and Brian Kelly wanting to build this thing through high school, it's going to be interesting to see how this recruiting class goes. You have a lot of talent. There's a lot of optimism, especially with some of the top targets that are in the state for the 2026 class. And quite frankly, you can't lose Blaine Bradford at Catholic. It just cannot happen. Cannot happen. So from a finance standpoint, you got to do what you got to do. You need safeties more than you need water right now. And for LSU fans, more than we need our bourbon and whiskey, more than we need crawfish, you need safety help. You need elite safety help. You need elite players to be there. That's what Blaine Bradford can give you. So it's going to be interesting. I love that JR was the director of recruiting and understands that game just as much as anybody that will be in that room. A guy that, quite frankly, and a lot of these high-level recruiters right now have been molded in the image of Frank Wilson. It is what it is, but it's the truth. Whether they want to admit it or not, they are all acting like him, talking like him, moving and shaking like him. And I love every bit of it. Donovan Tate, go scout your ass off, man. Go recruit your ass off. The director of recruiting has no business worrying about finances. It's what Austin Thomas is there for. So go scout your ass off. And I would assume that JR had a really big hand in, who took his spot? A massive hand in who took his spot. And I'm not thinking, I'm pretty much telling you it's what I had been told. So, love the moves. I think that there could be a couple of more that you do. The Tim Rattay news from last night broke while we were on air, and we didn't have a lot of time to talk about it. Let's go back and talk about Tim Rattay before we get to this LSU over-under talk and things that I do not agree with really at all. So we talked about Tim Rattay at a very small rate. I want to get back to that because I didn't think that you and I personally, which we could just sit here and talk about it for as long as we need to, about Tim Rattay. I think you need all the quarterback help. And I'm not talking about for Garrett Nussmeier, but I think you need all the offensive help, as how I probably should say, but even quarterback that you can quite honestly get. Tim Rattay being a guy that's got 8 NFL seasons under his belt. He's been a quarterback's coach at 3 different stops. He's been in the league. He's going to be on the field with Garrett Nussmeier. As Joe Sloan is in the booth, Tim Rattay will be on the field being face-to-face with Garrett the entire way. Nobody on that staff, and I mean this, nobody on that staff knows what it's like to be in the fire, which is what is Garrett's going through more than Tim Rattay. It is a Joe Sloan move. They have been together at Louisiana Tech, and he trusts him. You got to make these hires for your coordinators when they trust guys. I never have issues with that, ever. And I'm never going to have issues with that. When you bring in an offensive coordinator, when you bring in a defensive coordinator, you're going to have these guys that these coaches trust. And quite frankly, coaches are paranoid. They're the most paranoid human beings on the face of the earth. Talk to one of them. Talk to any coach. Go talk to your local high school coach. The most paranoid human beings that you'll ever meet in your life. And that's what makes them so great and successful. So, the Tim Rattay move, more than a developmental piece, I think that when you're implementing a system, you're bringing in more guys that have been around in that system with you. Does it help? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. The biggest thing about the Tim Rattay news that you cannot look past, that you have to just know that when the bullets start flying, when you go to Tuscaloosa next year, when in week 1 you go into Clemson, when Florida comes into Death Valley in September, my goodness. When Garrett with a young, new offensive line gets pressured, Tim Rattay is going to be on the guy on the sidelines that's sitting on the bench with him, talking him through things in that iPad. It's just how it's probably going to roll. So I like the move from there because you don't, I mean, again, Tim, he's seen more experience at that position, being at that position and having NFL experience more than anybody. Guys, these analyst roles are different. I'm just going to call it like I see it. The analyst roles that LSU has brought in are on a different wavelength right now. They are. They are spending the money. They are bringing in the people that they need to bring in and hire. Good on them. It's a big when here's the truth. Lance Guidry should be a DC at a lower school right now. But because the game is changing so much, a guy like Lance Guidry, that would be like a 20, 25 home run guy in Major League Baseball sitting the bench because you're so talented. You know what it's like? It's like Jared Jones sitting the bench as a freshman when he's got double-digit home runs and he's hitting above 300. You're just so stacked everywhere else that a very talented freshman has got to sit the bench. And I don't think the analyst role in today's college football is necessarily sitting on the bench. But that safety role is going to be a big one. You also bring in Noah Joseph. You know what he's good at too? Safeties. Every LSU action that has been taken in this offseason is LSU telling you what they thought their biggest weaknesses were. Every team does it. And it's not like we didn't know that these moves that were being made aren't some of the biggest weaknesses. They were. They 100% were LSU's weaknesses a year ago. The run game. We got a run game coordinator. Your head coach had to take over at the end of the season and helping in the running game. What did you think was going to happen? You didn't let anybody go on your defensive staff, but other analysts moved on, and what did you go and do? You went and got one of the better DCs in Louisiana's history, let's call it what it is, in Lance Guidry, and a guy that's coached safeties his whole life. Guys, Lance Guidry's coached the position of safety longer than he has it in his life. He's been a coach for the safety position. There's nothing he will not and has not seen. Nothing. Do that with Noah Joseph, too. So, I don't know if you are completely done. I'll be honest and say that. I don't know if you're done because with the analyst role and being on field and doing what you're doing, you can hire as many as you want, and quite frankly, you should. You should. Last thing on the staff before we get to the FanDuel thing. Ahmad Anan is now at LSU. The analyst for special teams. One of the first moves that was publicly made. On March, I'm not going to say March the 8th when you first go out there. How do I want to say this? The first time that the media is exposed to special teams. In my humble opinion, there's going to be one man running it. One guy. You have done the last two seasons, because you did it with Brian Polian as one guy, but the last 2 seasons, you technically gave that position to everybody. I don't want Brad Davis coaching field goal block. I don't want a tight ends coach who's never coached special teams. I don't want him doing anything. I don't want Bob Diaco, who is not a special teams guy. I do not want that. So you go and get Ahmad Anan, another guy with Louisiana ties here. Actually, he's literally coming from Grambling. Dipped his toe in that water. Been at Penn State. They led the country in block kicks. One of the top FCS units in special teams. I think that's going to be a big talking point, because what's going to happen is special teams will get pushed to the back burner in the majority half of the spring period. It's going to be a big piece. The reason that Ahmad Anan's hiring and why special teams can be a massive deal this year. Well, number one, your kicking game has got to get better from a field goal aspect. You can't go to A&M and keep having these issues. You quite simply, you can't. We need to block a couple of kicks or two. We need to be aggressive on special teams. You have the SEC leader in kick and punt returns, and Barry and Brown coming in here. You have Aaron Anderson, and you have Xavier Thomas. Now, I don't know if you go into the season with all three. Now, let me make this clear. It's going to be interesting to see what a guy in spring like Xavier Thomas does. Because, man, he's starting to get to his money year, right? Like, hey, man, you got to start making some things happen. That room is crowded. And you kind of have the special teams guys literally there. There are some people that think that Harlan Berry's going to get a shot at some punt return stuff. Inject that into my veins if that's the comp with Reggie Bush. So, the return game, the kick game, that was not bad last year. Guys, the punt return game was not bad. Now, you did bring in something we have not talked about at all. You brought in a punter from the portal from Middle Tennessee State who had multiple kicks down inside the 5. Guys, the punt game has got to be better. You were hitting shank left, shank right. It was like a full prison scene. on A&E. What is that show, 40 Days In? You saw more shanks from LSU punting than you did in your local prison. That cannot happen. The fundamentals will get you beat. Running the ball, stopping the run, getting off the field on third down, not making dumb penalties, special teams. Start effing up in one of those 5 areas. Because you start effing up in one of those 5 areas, you're going to get your ass whooped. Where have you had issues? You haven't been able to run the ball effectively enough without Jaden Daniels. You haven't been able to stop the run in the SEC game when you start losing. 250 yards per game in the SEC when you lose. Don't take me for it. Go do the math yourself. And I promise you it's going to be 250. I promise you it will be 250. You start missing kicks. You start getting bad snaps. You start shanking punts. You start making dumb decisions and dumb penalties. It will get you beat. So Ahmad Anan is on LSU's campus. I hope that we get to talk a good amount about special teams at some point during the spring. All right. Let me do this. We're 45 minutes in. Let me get to a quick break. No super chats? No. You know it's not football season anymore. Technically in season. You know it's not football season anymore when the super chats stop. Hurts my heart. Let me do this. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about this over-under from FanDuel, LSU at 8.5. What is the realistic thoughts that we need to have on that number? We'll talk about that next. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirement. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
Louisiana is unique. The food, the festivals, even the bugs. No, not mud bugs. Unwanted bugs like these. The ones you don't want crawling in your home or business. Trust the Shield from J&J Exterminating. We've been protecting Louisiana homes for over 50 years, earning the trust of our clients because we deliver what we promise. Protect your home from pests. Get the Shield from J&J Exterminating.
J&J Exterminating. Yeah.
Will Campbell's going to be hearing that sound pretty early in the draft this year. That is for damn sure. I see all these mock drafts. If Will Campbell falls and makes it to Carolina, I think he's going to be a Panther. Going to keep saying it. They're going to protect Bryce Young. So, FanDuel came out with their over-under win totals for LSU football early in the new year, 8 months or 7 months until the season kicks off here. But LSU was at 8.5. There were a lot of other teams ahead of them, rightfully so. I mean, LSU coming off of an 8-win season in the regular season, but a 9-win total season, but it's going to be 8.5 for the regular season. And there was something that I saw today that I don't want to say took issue with, but I want to give a little bit more perspective the way that I see it. I saw this over-under at 8.5 come out for FanDuel, and I saw a lot of people around LSU saying 9 wins should be the floor. I agree. 9 wins at LSU at any given moment should be the outright floor. I'm with you. I agree. You're 100% right. I got a lot of questions. Actually, I have 5 big questions that I ask. They're in no specific order, but if that's the floor as a program, I agree. If you're going into the season saying that this team's floor is 9 wins, I don't know if I agree. I think there's too many questions. A couple of these questions that I have, again, in no specific order. What are you going to look like along your offensive line? You had a first-round pick, arguably, and probably what will be the first offensive lineman taken in the NFL draft off the board early, and Will Campbell. Can Tyree Adams fill the void of Will Campbell? Well, I believe that he can. I don't know if he can. I really have high hopes from what I've seen from Tyree Adams. During the spring last year, when he would get second-team reps at left tackle, he was really a talk along the offensive line of the rebuild post-Will Campbell. I thought he did well, actually very well, in the game versus Baylor. I thought he had a really good game. Can he sustain that through a season will be a very big deal. What are you doing at guard? Now, you have a pretty good idea of what you think. If you go and get a big-time guy like Josh Thompson, you feel like that he's going to be at right or left guard. Does Paul Mabinga stay in that lineup? What do you do there? Does some of these early young freshmen, like Solomon Thomas or Carius Kern, do they make a big leap and start early now that they're in here in spring and you can see a lot of them? That ultimately will be the question that I have, but one that we do not know. You feel pretty locked in and solid at center if you're going from the portal route and bringing in Braylon Moore. Well, then what do you do with DJ Chester, and do they battle it out? Does the competition go all offseason to see who it is? And you're like, Blake, DJ had a bad year. It's going to be Braylon Moore. I've seen crazier things happen here. Literally, I've seen crazier things happen. So what do you do at center? What do you do at right tackle? Miles Frazier played right tackle along with some others in the bowl game, but mainly Miles Frazier was your right tackle. He's not here. What are you doing there? So when I look at the offensive line and I look at everything that you have to replace, I do think that you brought in more than adequate and more than quality guys to replace what you were losing. There could be a very good chance that some of this is a surplus along the offensive line considering where you're coming from. You have got to find a way to run the football. That is the bottom line. But I don't know if you can say that the floor, the outright floor for this team right now is them on the outside looking in to the playoff. I don't know if you can do that. You do not know what the game is won up front. And I'm excluding Garrett Nussmeier. I'm not even going to bring up Garrett here. But if we were to, which, you know what, add a point into here. If the offensive line is not adequate enough, a lot like it was last year, and you can't run the football, and you're putting everything on his plate to win you a game, is he prepared for that? The second half of 10 of his 12 interceptions, we've talked about that, come in the second half. You know the struggles that Garrett had a year ago. I still believe, and I agree, even though you think that I don't for whatever reason, I agree that Garrett will take another step. But when you have bad O-line play, it doesn't matter how big of a step that you take because of the central nature of that. If he's not being protected and he's a non-mobile quarterback, it doesn't bode well for anybody. So you're going to have to run the football. You have made hires in Alex Atkins. You have made a lot of decisions that you believe have fixed those issues. The question ultimately becomes, what if you get into the spring and on March the 10th, you and I are having a conversation like, hey, man, you brought in Patrick Payton, you brought in Sadir Mitchell, you had Don McKinley that's in the interior, and Jack Pyburn along with Jamari Butler, which I would suggest everybody to go and watch Carter Bryant's film breakdown on that young man. Holy smokes. You get into March the 10th, March the 12th, March the 14th, whatever the day is, and you keep coming in here and saying, hey, man, the offensive line is struggling. Then what? You got a long way to go. A very long way to go in that scenario. So it's not going to be over and finalized in spring. To say that you're a playoff team on the outside looking in, I think is foolish and dumb because we have too many questions. I'm not saying people are dumb. I'm saying I think the whole situation is dumb in the sense of and dumb's not probably a bad adjective. Let's lose another one. I think it is unknown. You have so many questions there and how things will hold up. Speaking of turnovers, you got to do it. I mean, listen, it's a bottom line fact. If you continue to turn the ball over like you did a year ago, you're not winning 9 games in the regular season. If you do not have better play calling in the red zone, you will not win 9 games in the regular season next year. You will not. If you're going out of a wing T formation and you don't even have a fullback and you're putting a very slow tight end to go and block the edge on an elite safety, you're not going to score. You're not going to score. So turnovers, red zone, running the football is going to be a big deal there. So I'll throw the turnovers at number 2. Number 3, look, listen, man, there's been a 3-year window here, okay, under Brian Kelly. We've talked about defensively, LSU has had struggles in stopping the run, stopping quarterbacks from running the football. Guys, it's really happened the last 2 years. You've got a lot of different personnel. You pray and hope that personnel change is definitely going to be the change with Jack Pyburn, especially, who's been really good at defending the run, especially the quarterback run, along with Pat Payton, and that you're developing with Bo Davis in the inside. I think the defensive line has questions. What do they look like as a unit? Now, I will tell you this. I have a lot of faith in Bo Davis's development, Kevin Peoples' development, and quite frankly, it's going to be interesting to see a whole new regime being changed on the defensive line. Let's go see what you got. Can you put Sadir Mitchell in certain situations at the nose? What do you do with a healthy Jacoby and Guillory? I don't know. One thing I do know is it's not a one-game sample size in saying that all of the losses in the SEC over the last 3 years have the one main ingredient in common. The one main ingredient. And it's simple. You got your ass whooped in your front seven and you gave up too many rushing yards. It would be one thing if we look at an LSU team and say, well, Blake, we gave up 250 to 300 rushing yards against Auburn. Until you see the quarterback at Auburn, who you don't play, but I'm just using this as an example. But Auburn has a quarterback like Cam Newton. Okay, that's an anomaly. Because every loss the last 3 years has had one massive ingredient. So again, you say to me that the floor is 9 wins. I want to make this known before I move on even further because I'm thinking about it in my head. I am not saying that it is not going to happen at all. But making that assumption right now is dangerous to the expectation of things that you do not know about. Guys, I have said this more than I can. Look, I know what I've said because I've been here. Even when you have gone and come into these shows, pause. But if you have gone and come into these shows, you hear some things, you don't hear some things. One thing I know for a fact that I will continue to preach. I think you have the ability to be special. You can be a playoff team. You don't have those answers. Saying that the offense and the quarterback will lead you to that when you have a defense that's giving up that many rushing yards. You had Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, and Brian Thomas Jr., and you still went 9-3. It's a very different scenario with Blake Baker and Matt House. It's a very different scenario with this personnel. I'm with you. I am 100% with you. But you got to be in a situation where you're not giving up that many rushing yards. The front four, the 4 defensive linemen that you brought in from the transfer portal, quite frankly, it's going to be the biggest boom or bust issue that you have here. At the end of the season, LSU will be in the playoffs because of, insert blank here, because you were better in defending the run. More specifically, you were better at stopping a quarterback from lining up and just running the football on you. Other than Cade Klubnik and Lenore Sellers, I don't think that there's a quarterback that I have massive fears for, but I haven't seen Austin Simmons really play at Ole Miss. John Mateer at Oklahoma. I mean, my man can run. He had 10 rushing touchdowns a year ago. I get it's a lesser conference in the Pac-12 now, clearly. But, I mean, there are some guys that can move. Lenore Sellers being the ultimate one in that. You got to do it. I feel like when I come out here, by the way, that when I talk about this, you think that I am being negative. I promise you this. Invite me to one of your Twitter spaces and let's have the conversation. Let's have the conversation here. Let's have it here. Because I can be wrong, but I know what I'm not wrong about. I'm not wrong about having these questions because I know that all of you have them too. And if you don't have them, then, well, you need to take off the purple and gold glasses. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on number 4. What does your secondary look like? I've talked about that too much. I think Corey's going to run out DJ Pickett. Speaking of DJ Pickett, let's go here. I was sent something this weekend about DJ Pickett during the junior day weekend because I started inquiring, like, hey, man, how's it going? You know, just started talking to some people and some sources. I'm not overreacting when I say this. This is the truth. Every single time that I start inquiring about LSU football, one thing that they have in common is DJ Pickett. The kid does nothing but work. So I know that we have a lot of people on that listen to us. I know that we have a lot of people that listen to have sons that are on the football team. I will tell you this. If your son's even in the DB room or is a DB or a defender, or if your son's just on the team, nobody on this team right now is putting in more work than DJ Pickett. That is a fact. My man goes to the gym, hits the nutrition center. He's back on the field within an hour, doing everything to get ready. I pray to God Corey gets him there, and I think that he can. Nobody is working harder than DJ Pickett right now. No one. And you know what? Some of this that I hear is he's doing it by himself. He don't need nobody to be great. He going to go and put in the work to be great. The elites, one trait that every elite player has ever had, they outworked everybody else. Kobe, Michael, LeBron, let's go to football. Peyton, Tom, Elway, name them. Mahomes. I know the whole Mahomes thing with Patrick, and everybody says the referee cheat for him. I promise you this. Patrick Mahomes works his ass off. You can say whatever you want. Pat Mahomes works his ass off. The elites are different. Pete Rose. In baseball. I don't know how y'all feel about Pete Rose, but here's what I'd say. God bless his soul. I love listening to old Pete Rose interviews. Speaking of Pete Rose, I was listening to one, I think yesterday or the other day. And I'm pretty sure he was with Colin Cowherd. And speaking of Cowherd, I hope that everything's okay with him. I saw that he had to leave his studio. Man, protect yourself, man. I need to be better with my health. I'm trying to be better with my health. I hope everybody's better with their health. Just don't take your health for granted. Anyway, Pete Rose was talking about games and pitches. He remembers a pitch and a count in a game in the regular season from like 1974. Work ethic. I felt compelled to say that about DJ. That's all I keep hearing. He's working harder than anybody on that team, other than maybe Chris Hilton. So good on him. Last but not least, speaking of Chris Hilton, speaking of receivers, listen, man, you got a lot of talent there. You bring in Nick Anderson, you bring in Barry and Brown to go along with Aaron Anderson and Chris Hilton and that all those others that are in that room. What does Destin Hill do? You know, we sit here and don't talk about him because he wasn't the premier name. What does Teron Francis do? You know, Jelani Watkins, I know that he's running track. Does he see some time? Does he get a playing time here or there? I don't know. I'll tell you this, Jelani Watkins got some serious speed. Speed kills, man. If he can catch the football at any remote rate, he's the fastest kid on your team, outside of maybe Chris Hilton. I think it's going to be paramount for LSU and Garrett Nussmeier to speaking of work, they all need to get to work. I don't want to hear just that players and receivers are catching balls off the jug machine. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear and be told the summer of Jaden Daniels or the summer of Joe Burrow, you going out there and your whole team's working their ass off to be elite. The two best football players that you've ever had all had one thing in common too. They put in that work. So it is what it is, man. What are you going to look like at receiver? Okay. Look, we're going to punt on the baseball talk here tonight. We went over a little bit. We're going to punt on it because we'll be talking a lot about it, but we needed to get to some LSU football stuff. I'm glad that we did. Let's get to a couple comments. Jerry says, Blake, I think 10 wins is the minimum for LSU, and it starts week 1. I got to disagree. James, buddy, it's not a shot. You go on Twitter, you come on here, you talk shit, and probably from a fake account, but it's not a shot. A shot would be me saying that I don't think that he can overcome the turnovers. That would be what a shot is. Are you realistically going to look at me in the face from your bot account, if that's what you are, and tell me that my statement about Joe Burrow and my statement about Jaden Daniels and the elite things that they did that summer don't exist? If you believe that, you're an idiot. You know, a lot of times I let this shit fly, but I'm here for it tonight. I will be here for it tonight. Good on you. You're lonely enough to create a bot account. If that's even you, if you aren't even a bot account, you're that lonely. There's nothing in that statement that's not true. I gave more examples outside of LSU. That's not an LSU thing. That is a life thing. The people that work their asses off historically will be where they want to go. The people that put in the real work will show you by the fruits of their labor. It's not a shot. I get frustrated behind it because of the simple nature that I can't come out here without a section of the fan base and say, hey, you can't turn the football over that much to win football games. And you take it as a shot. It's not a shot. It's reality. Some of y'all need to stop watching sports because you don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry. It's not a shot, bud. Okay. Carver says Pete Rose was a legend. I do agree. Back to Jerry's point on the 10 wins. Jerry, you're going to have to convince me where you don't have questions. You're going to do you know enough about Oklahoma football? Look, I think you got to take off the purple and gold glasses, Jerry, if I'm being honest. You got to take off the purple and gold glasses. You can't say that right now on February the 4th. Here's what I'd say to you, Jerry. Could it be? 100%. They could be. They have the potential to be. Jerry Covington says, man, that ain't no shot. Nuss was a turnover machine. Man, facts. I'm not trying to take a shot at the kid. I'm not at all. Not remotely close. Guys, there's nothing that has been said. Nothing that has been said about Garrett on this show or on any show that I've been on that would suggest that it's a shot versus the reality of it. If you think that you can turn the ball over that much as an offense, regardless of who the player is, the player could be Jarrett Lee. Oh, wait. Alabama's new offensive coordinator got fired because they kept turning the ball over too much, which is out of his control. These are professionals. It's not a shot, man. Brandon Reese says the cornerback room has pretty good depth. I think for what it's worth, Brandon, I think that they've brought in a lot of quality depth. You have a depth at a lot of positions. You just have a lot of unknowns. I agree with that. Alexander Taylor says, I want to know what's going on with Jakeem Jackson. It's a great question. I don't know. I do not. I don't know. It's another one. Speaking of the DB room, what makes it so fascinating is Mansour Delane, Ashton Stamps, Jakeem Jackson, PJ Woodland. What do you do? What do you do? It really is. I'm not even going to put DJ Pickett in there. It's going to be interesting to see how they roll it out, man. Dennis, Nuss needs a running game, without a doubt. Without a doubt. You as a team have to run the ball better. The one excuse I will not give Garrett would be just what we talked about, would be spinning out left and throwing the ball up against Texas A&M to a 5'8" receiver. That is inexcusable in a high leverage situation. Or the Ole Miss turnovers in high leverage situations. Guys, you cannot have 9 interceptions in 3 games. It cannot happen. You say that, and you say that, and it's like you're ridiculed. Like, you think I'm ridiculing the kid. To Dennis's point, 1,000%, he needs a running game. 500 passing attempts in a season is absolutely insane, and you didn't even make it to a playoff. James says, Nuss bust Heisman year. There it is. It's because of your belief. You don't want to hear what you don't want to hear. You don't want to face a reality when somebody asks a question or makes a statement about turnovers. It's your belief because you're an idiot. If you think that you can turn the football over that much and win and get into a playoff, unless your defense is elite, then you're an idiot. Sorry. I don't know how else to put it. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, man. Peace.